Welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you again for our final session of this track. I'm really excited today to share the stage with Rabah. We had some preliminary calls, and I'm really excited actually about the topic of what we're going to talk about. We talked about AI personalization and specifically some of the things that you can do from a rapid prototyping perspective. And so my background is I helped to start Build-A-Bear workshop a long time ago, and then from there went to work for an outdoor retailer called Orvis, where we used rapid prototyping and testing and spinning things up as quickly as we could, but we always had a gap in the tool set that we really wanted. And so when we talked about what you guys do, it got me super excited about what the possibilities are. So I'm going to turn it over to Rabah. He's going to explain his background and where he came from, and then we have a series of questions that we're going to go over together.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you're having a great time. I've had a blast here so far. Like Finn said, my name's Rabah. I was previously the CMO over at a company called Triple Whale that did data analytics. Took like a 3-month sabbatical, did a whole vision quest across Europe, get my life together, and then somehow got hoodwinked into being an early stage CMO at Fermat. But it's been incredible. We actually just, humble brag, closed our Series B. So they backed the Brinks truck up, $45 million to deploy in capital. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, Finn laid it out perfectly. What we do is we allow you to tailor every touch point in your customer journey, whether it's in real life eventing, paid media, social ads, building funnels and experimentation suite, AI builders. So I don't want to pitch too much, but it's a really cool service, and we'll get into kind of the more strategic tactics, and then if there's linkages, we'll make them.
Sounds great. Let's start with the first question. What I find that it's a cultural shift when it comes to thinking about how you do iteration.
100%.
And so when you're doing design and iteration, not perfection, when you're helping your team to understand that that's what you're after is the iteration and not perfection, how do you deal with that when speed and results are what you're getting pressured to do?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's two major headwinds to that. It's ideas and infrastructure. And the ideas have been pretty much alleviated. That never was a huge, most really smart marketers have like, oh, I should try this, I want to test this. And now with AI, you can throw it through AI and you can get just really cool things to test. I think a lot of times the infrastructure became a really big impediment because one, when you're working at a big brand like Build-A-Bear or something like that, the worst thing you can do is break the money printer. Like that is a no-no. And then the second worst thing you can do is, really degrade your brand equity. And so when you have ideas and infrastructure in place, I think that's when you can really start to run. And so that's where it's coming into, do you have the ability to link with your dev team saying, hey, I have this cadence, I want to test this thing, test that thing. But for me, the things that I see stopping most people are the infrastructure.
Interestingly, I had a conversation with a number of different brands that were talking about the infrastructure and how critical it was. The data not being right was always a challenge, and so it came back to that. So all these brands really want to do some really amazing AI stuff, but if the plumbing's not right, it can be a challenge.
Yeah, and then to your point as well, if the plumbing's too slow, you can really not be able to have. So basically, one of our theses at Fermat is growth through experimentation, where you're just constantly iterating. Like, yes, you're going to have your returning revenue and your organic, but like, where are different markets? Or there's a great thesis called Jobs to be Done of people don't buy products, they hire them to do a job. And are there different jobs to be done that you can start promoting, but do it in a way that, again, doesn't risk any of the main revenue that you're bringing in, where you can bring these almost, we call it a hub and spoke model, where the hub is basically the conversion, and you can have different pathways to that conversion. We found that being really value generative to expanding big companies, and then also in hyper growth stage as well.
That's cool. One of the things that I found, I last year led a conversation in a private equity firm that I work with, and we were talking about the Shein effect.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about Shein as a massive disruptor is what they do is they obviously, their marketing mix, or excuse me, their merchandising mix is driven by what they're seeing on TikTok and things like that. Interestingly, in 2023, they launched 1.2 million products
Yes.
that year when
Yes.
Gap launched 43,000 new products.
That's orders of magnitude.
So yeah, so what they do is they launch wide, so a lot of tests, and then they chase into it. What I love about what you're talking about is you can launch a number of different things,
That's exactly
another
right.
number of different paths into the experience, and then test, and not guess, instead test away and drill into it.
Yeah, that's just my thesis where I just don't like to make big bets. Like I am a bit of a degenerate gambler, but outside of that, when I'm spending other people's money, I want to make sure that I'm making the right calls. And for me, that's how I plan my marketing, and that's how I know the top tier kind of heads of marketing, VPs of marketing, et cetera. They want to make these. You want to make multiple small bets, and then when you start seeing something win, then you kind of, I hate this term, I don't know why I'm going to say it, but you put more wood behind that arrow, and you keep going, and then you can scale up. And then the other thing that you'll see too when you have velocity is there's two things that happen. One, you'll see that there's expiration dates on winners. Some can be perpetual, and when you do find perpetual winners, what's really cool is then you can fold that into the main site or into the main marketing. But when you have this almost like satellite stores or experimentation away from the main planet, you have this ability to be really risky, and then you'll find there might just be some really awesome short-term wins that are just momentum bombs, but they're not necessarily the nuclear reactor that is going to power your business. And again, a win's a win, and it's great. You can just stack these wins, and the awesome part is you not only get learnings, but you usually are going to get revenue because you didn't make this huge bet, and it's still going to come out on the upside when you made this learning and these small bets. So yeah, I think the only difference with Sheen is it's very, very hard to live for most people to have the experimentation as deep as the product layer. Launching new products is really hard. So most people have the same products, but when you can experiment, again, you can drive these different pathways, expand your TAM, and find these different ways to generate more revenue with the exact same product.
Cool. So it's all about a culture of iteration and a culture of rapid prototyping, and that changes the way that we think about creative.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about how does the creative process change when it's instant stuff that's getting spun up, and how does the creative team need to be thinking about that, and how does AI perhaps help? We had a limitation on what we could do because of how much creative we could create
Correct.
at the time, right?
Yeah.
I know that that's progressed quite a bit now.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear how creative teams and how teams should be thinking about an iteration mindset in order to deliver results, as opposed to make a plan, go execute it, see if it worked, 2 weeks later, come back. So I'd love to hear how you're thinking about creative teams and how they should be thinking about those things.
Yeah, 100%. It's a fantastic question, and it's been a huge shift that I've seen in the highest performing marketing teams. And it's a little bit ironic where AI is this huge cutting edge software, and what I've seen is almost a swing back to the Mad Men days of, instead of, like, there was just this huge gold rush in the last 15, 20 years, probably 15 years of paid media. In specific, the Meta newsfeed was just this just absolute money printer. You put $1 in, 6 come out, and you really didn't have to do anything. What's happening now is you're going to have to start to become a full funnel marketer. Again, kind of like this Mad Men days where you think of the campaign throughout the whole customer journey, not just the ad, and you're going to drop them on a product display page, you're going to drop them on the Wade website. And so people are thinking through these campaigns, again, kind of as those pathways from ad to landing page to PDP to cart. And the fancy term we use for this is ad coherence. Like, is the ad coherent with the post-click journey? And you can think of it almost like a drawbridge. Like, we have a supplements company that's doing really, really well, and they wanted to scale more, and they started tapping out their market. Their market was bodybuilders. Their whole website was just a bunch of jacked guys. And they found that there was a huge market for guys like me, like just 30 to 45-year-old guys that want to be healthy, should take more creatine. But their ads had incredible top of the funnel metrics, stump stop ratio, click-throughs, all these things, but nothing was converting. And what they found out is because there was just this dissonance between what the ad said and what the landing page was portraying, because there was all these bodybuilders. And so once they got on Fermat, they were able to make funnels that were, hey, this is the person, and that fluidity and coherence, the drawbridge dropped, and then their conversion rate just skyrocketed. So too long didn't read. I think you're going to start to see full funnel marketers, and you're going to start to see less paid media specialists, where you need to think through the whole journey now versus how can I just make great ads? How can I make incredible, coherent customer journeys?
Does Fermat help with the content creation side of it, or do you partner with someone else on that?
Yeah.
Because that's where we often got into a bottleneck, is we couldn't generate quality enough content to do our tests. So.
Yeah, so we help out in terms of AI copywriting, in terms of merchandising, so we can merchandise all the products for you with AI and then help you actually pick images and videos that will pair well with that to, again, make that journey as cohesive as possible.
Cool. Yeah, I'm hearing some really, really amazing stuff from an AI perspective on content gen. So
yeah, it's really fascinating when you. I will say what's really interesting, and this is just a personal thesis of mine, but I've seen it play out, is that AI is going to get automated up to the point of taste. And so what I've seen, or just in specific with the Fermat users that are doing the best, the people are using AI to generate these funnels, these pictures, this copy, and then they'll take it the last 5 to 10% of the way, and they add their own taste, where it's very similar to, I don't know, I'm old, so you guys probably don't remember, but they were paying the chess. When chess was coming out with IBM and they were playing the chess players, the AI always beat the chess player, the chess master. But when the chess master was paired with the AI, it always beat the AI, and I think that's what's gonna happen in the future, especially with marketing. It's not gonna, I think that's exactly what's going to happen in marketing.
Interesting. It kind of leads right into the next question for me, which is when everything's nearly instantaneous and you're doing A/B testing and iterative and chasing the stuff that works and putting more wood behind it, where does intuition fall into that? You call it taste, which might be another word for it. Where does that fall into it, and how should we be thinking from a marketer perspective? Where's the value that we're going to bring into it as opposed to data scientists? Where does taste insert?
It's such an interesting question because it's something that I philosophically haven't unraveled yet, where so Daniel Kahneman has a great book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's more of a behavioral economics book, but it's a fantastic book for marketers to read. And in that, they basically unwound intuition as subconscious wisdom. Like, the experiences that were imprinted on these people were so deep that there was a fire marshal that wouldn't go into a building. He couldn't articulate why, but he just knew he shouldn't, and then a backdraft would happen, and if he would have took his men in there, everybody would have died. So what I mean by that is I think you can learn leadership, but you can't learn how to be a leader. Some people have just this ability to go into a room and be magnetic. And I'm trying to figure out, can taste be learned or not? With that being said, at the end of the day, what you need to do is focus on velocity and scale, and that's what's gonna do big, broad bets that are small in scale and do a lot of them. At the end of the day, we're not and I don't mean this as a pejorative, but we're not making medicine, we're not erecting buildings. So I personally like to see directionality and success versus, I need to be stat sig or it needs to be statistically significant. Like, yes, that's okay, but there was a great mentor of mine that said, hey, do you want to make money or do you want to be right? I want to make money.
I do too. So from my perspective, my background as an experience officer, I went into anthropology. And as I think about AI and how humans interact with AI from an anthropology perspective, there's an interesting, there's so much that AI can do for us. One of the things that humans bring to the mix is the why behind what happens. The human motivators, the things that make you cry, the things that make you laugh.
100%.
That why, or that emotional connection with brands like Build-A-Bear, that we were really striving for the emotional connection to our product. That piece is where I think AI will allow us to focus our energy on creating the why and take out all the other administrivia stuff. And so I'm excited because I feel like if we focus on the why as anthropologists and telling the story for our customers, and making it about the experience itself, I think we can elevate our brands in a meaningful way. What are your thoughts?
You absolutely nailed it. I think what's really awesome about AI now is that you can run a proper marketing team with 5 to 7 people now. Before, you would have to get into a place of you just needed hands, versus now you can have this really cohesive unit that can output more, and the ability to just bounce ideas off or get 0 to 1 ideas from the AI that you didn't think of, but then again, be able to mold it through the taste or through the lens of your brand to make sure that all the nuances there. I think it's, I don't know, I grew up when the internet just came about. I think this is a bigger shift than the internet was. And the internet was obviously massive, the World Wide Web. And so I think for me, it's just been really cool experience to be able to ideate in such a fast, rapid, I mean, full disclosure, when I make because we do all of our quarterly marketing plans at Fermat, we do them in quarters. I use AI for sure. Like again, it'll whittle it down. I'll throw out the crap. I'll mold the diamond, dust it off. But it's been really impeccable, and there's been some really incredible things. It's actually a really great copywriter. Like in Fermat, we have a fantastic copywriter. So I think it's going to get so much velocity behind success that it's going to be really awesome. But again, I think what's going to be interesting is the metric that AI, or the vector that AI does not do well, is taste. And so I think like if there's any young marketers or any, like taste is the number one thing that I would focus on and figure out like how can I become a tastemaker, because the ability to take this nebulous idea that you put into AI and then get it back and shape it, because AI almost gives you like this really, it'll build an awesome mannequin for you, but the ability to dress it like personality into it, AI can't do that. And it's almost like that's going to be the bifurcation between dropshippers and brands. And again, there's nothing wrong with dropshippers, but dropshippers are an arbitrage play where brands are literally, to your point, I'm making an emotional connection with you. It's a difference between a subscription and a membership, right? Like a subscription, I'm transacting with you. A membership, I'm part of something. And I think that's where you're going to see, again, the big kind of callback to the Mad Men era of that really epic brand affinity is really going to become, in my opinion, one of the biggest, if not the most important moat for your business.
Interesting. I also, years ago, I was on a stage with the guy who was the chief marketing officer for Domino's, and who's now the president of Domino's. And one of the interesting things backstage, I was talking to him about his approach and learning from him. And one of the things that he said that was really impactful to me as a marketer, as a budding marketer, was that really great marketers market the problem, not the solution, right? And so if you can identify the problem, that's what you should be telling the story of so that people understand. That said, to understand the problem, it requires a level of empathy.
Yes.
And empathy is not just kind of trying to put yourself in another person's shoes. It's not passive. It's an active, investigative
100%.
Process of saying, what problem are we actually trying to solve?
100%.
Internet, but they had certain problems that those things solved.
Exactly right.
And so we as marketers in this AI world, if we can help from an empathy perspective to identify, here's the problems that we're going to go solve together.
Yep.
As brands, here are the things that we're going to do together as brands. I think that combined with what you just said, I think positions us well to use AI to build some amazing experiences. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it.
Okay, final question.
Hit me.
What organizational structure do you think is best for rapid prototyping in this kind of world? Because it's blowing up our traditional how we're thinking about things. And you just said teams smaller, more effective. What do you think the structure is for this?
So this is a little bit of a hot take, but I think experimentation and growth are kind of synonymous, and they should live almost like outside with a dotted line to the main marketing org. And the reason I say that is the main marketing org, again, it's akin to the money printer and the brand flag. Like once you have momentum, you want to keep momentum, and you don't want to do anything to mess up any returning revenue, any of your conversion rate. But at the same time, if I shackle you with all of that nuance, and you're just not going to be able to explore and innovate. And so it's very similar to like a Skunk Works. Like, it's a great book. You can read it. The Blackbird, one of my favorite airplanes, still the fastest, highest airplane. But ultimately, this was spun off to basically the main company, where Lockheed Martin had the Skunk Works, where they could build the most intricate plane ever made in 90 days or 180. You know, part of the war analogies, but the main Army or Navy, you want to have almost like a SEAL Team 6, where they can do really cool stuff. They're almost this scouting force, where they can do these things in a way that is not putting any of the main force at risk. And then you can start to do really cool things. And then once they find stuff, they can call for reinforcements and say, hey, we've made a beachhead here, and there's this idea is really landing, this job to be done, an angle is really resonating with this audience. Let's build this either into the main site or put more campaigns around it, what have you. But if you constrain people with and again, this isn't to say, you have to decide if you want your marketing to always be on brand or not on brand. That's a personal choice for the brand, like a Louis Vuitton, a Todd Snyder, or something like that. They're always going to choose brand over performance. But some people that aren't in like a luxury market or a brand forward brand, they care more about performance. But outside of that, I think you really want those people to run, because you don't want them to be constrained with the thinking and the biases of the main marketing department, because for them it's a bug, but for the brand it's a feature. And so that's kind of my little bit of a hot take, where they should still dotted line into the CMO, VP of marketing, or what have you, but in terms of their proximity, I think they need to be almost this satellite constellation away from the main marketing org, because if not, you can just get like, their biggest advantage is the breadth of experimentation. So scale and velocity is going to be their biggest advantage. And when you bring them into a well-run marketing org, there's going to be processes, there's going to be bureaucracy, there's going to be brand stuff, there's going to be all these things that's going to start to hamper and narrow what those outcomes can be. And then you won't, find champagne or figure out these really penicillin or some sort of really crazy thing. They're never going to have that eureka moment, because they're working in the main building, and the main building is just, the people there have a different headspace than these crazy people that just want to push the boundaries and go find some sort of new type of growth hack. So that's kind of a lot of words to say outside of the marketing department.
So I'm going to play the other side of that coin, but to be honest with you, I think that the truth is somewhere between this. Great. So when I was the chairman of the CIO Council, and we were talking about innovation and companies' innovation, and it got very popular, very buzzy. And what happened is all of these organizations created an innovation team.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many of these brands where I went and visited their innovation lab.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It had Love Sacks,
yes.
and it had foosball
100%.
and open bars and
yeah.
all this stuff that comes with that. And they would set it aside with the concept, with the thesis of, hey, we need to give them some air cover so that they can do their thing. What I found is that what they would run into is that was so outside the business that it was hard for them to integrate it. And so what happened is those all popped up. Everybody had an innovation lab, and it was super cool. And then they all went away because it didn't practically, there was no on-ramp back into the business that was meaningful. And so from my perspective, I feel like, I think you're right. And I would add that there's this combination of, we all own our tests.
Yes.
Like for us at Orvis, one of the things that we were trying to do is say, we're creating a culture of testing. And so every one of our merchants, our online merchants, we wanted them to say, here's where my business is, and here's the 7 things I'm testing.
Yes.
And so when we built a scorecard that would allow
yes.
them to report back what they were actually testing, it started to bring into the mix that they own testing. That said, I do think that there's this space where if you have a SEAL Team 6 person or two on your team that can do that, they can also augment and actually be the super user of testing.
You nailed it.
And that combination, I feel like was the most successful for what we saw. What do you think?
No, you absolutely nailed it. And the only thing I would say is, I think, one, you're absolutely right, and I think the melding of both of our ideas is really where the show is. But where I would say the two biggest challenges, because I was super on board with all these innovation teams, the problem is most brands aren't looking for innovation, they're looking for growth. And the challenge is, a lot of times you're going to make a great product that is a bad business. And there were so many things where it's like, this is amazing, but I can't sell it because I can't sell $10 bills for $20, or I can't sell $20 bills for $10 in perpetuity. It just doesn't work. I know it's awesome. And so I think that gets where it gets messy, is I don't want innovation, I want growth. And so a lot of times growth does come through innovation, but I don't want new things that I can't onboard back into the brand. So I think that's super, super well said. And the other thing, to your point, you could probably have this growth person or experimentation person in the marketing org. It's one or two people, and they can still kind of report in. They're just kind of more of like a satellite or the dotted line, because you're absolutely right. That was a disaster for most companies. It was just an R&D kind of arm that just burnt a bunch of money. And I think that's totally different than we think of growth through experimentation versus innovation can be, you can invent something that's really cool, but if it's not accretive to the business, why did I just give you all this money?
Right.
You nailed it.
I feel like we ran into the innovator's dilemma a lot.
Exactly right.
Like really, really well-run organizations are always going to go after the most profitable and the biggest sales, but the emerging opportunities never look like the biggest profit and the biggest sales.
Exactly right.
I'm a huge Clayton Christensen fan.
Same, Bob Messick, Clayton Christensen.
And so,
great book, by the way, you guys should read it.
Yes.
All of his stuff is fantastic.
Yes, Innovator's Dilemma. One of the ways to get around that I've found and learned from them was having a portfolio of here's the emerging things, right? That are a little less profitable and a little less impactful, but have potential for immersion into the business in a big way. And so cultivating those, I feel like, is a huge opportunity.
Absolutely, and I think the other their business, good luck, man, because somebody will. And it way better to rob Peter to pay Paul versus somebody takes your cookies. And I think like Apple was a perfect example of that. Like, why would you build the iPhone? You're cannibalizing the iPod market. Well, because somebody's going to do it, so let's do it. And so it's a challenge. It's the quintessential paradox, right? Because why would I take money away from this cash cow? Like, why would I take money away from this to go feed this thing that is a nothing burger? You nailed it.
Well, what I love is that we're getting to a place where we built tools like the stuff that you guys are doing from an experience officer perspective, where I can prototype a ton of stuff.
Yep.
And then chase the stuff that works the best and take some of the risk out of it, both on the testing side and on the delivery side. So I want to thank you for the time. It was a blast to hang out together. It was awesome.
Q&A. This is
great. And
great.
thanks for all that you participated in. Thank you.
Thank you.